Hello, and welcome to this virtual booth here at the Tech Expo. And this booth will be looking at the topic of gaming or esports and what the pathway could be for people who want to get into this field on a full-time or even on a recreational basis. And so we have some wonderful experts here who look at esports and gaming from different viewpoints and from different industries. And so we hope that you'll enjoy the conversation and you'll get some resources to help you get on or continue your esports journey. My name is Stephen Shaw, and I work at Verizon. I lead our community engagement for both Milwaukee and Chicago. Gaming and esports is something that Verizon has not only an interest, but significant investment in. And so it's wonderful to host this panel today. And before we get started, I want to introduce let my fellow panelists introduce themselves. And so I'm going to start with Erica.
Thanks so much, Stephen. My name is Erica Davis. I am a project manager with Experis Game Solutions. Experis Game Solutions provides testing, quality assurance, and plenty of other project solutions in the game space to game developers, producers, and platforms who need testing, quality, all sorts of workforce solutions across the United States and internationally, including test centers of excellence, places where we have lots of test associates coming soon to Milwaukee. And so we are here to talk to you all about what we do, how to get into it, and whether it interests you.
Great. Thank you, Erica. And thanks. So glad to have you here today. Now, we'd like to go to Dr. Krista-Lee Malone.
Hello, thank you. I am Krista-Lee Malone. I am an associate faculty associate, awkward title, I know, at UW-Madison. I teach in the game design program. We are soon starting up a master's program also, and I run the UW Game Lab, where we have equipment not only to make digital games, but also analog games. And we newly rigged it up to do streaming from the lab also. And that is what I am doing.
Wonderful. It's great to have you here, and would love to hear more about what UW is doing in this space, from not only an academic, but also from a career preparation standpoint. And if we have Brandon. Brandon, introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. Brandon Tschacher with the Milwaukee Esports Alliance, or MKE Sports Alliance for short. Excited to be here talking about esports and gaming with these incredible fellow panelists. It's definitely the last is least here because Erica and Dr. Malone are amazing, and it's been super cool to get to meet them and talk about this today. So for our part, the Milwaukee Esports Alliance, we exist to help create communication channels and culture within, I would say, the southern Wisconsin region particularly. So we try to do that through creating opportunities to connect both in person and virtually, to talk about gaming, things like this today, to make sure that people, if they have questions, can get answers, or they want to get connected to ways to get involved, that they know how they can do that. And then our secondary goal, outside of just helping accelerate that connectivity, is really just to showcase Milwaukee as a destination for individuals or corporations, teams that are interested in growing their esports presence. And so we hope to kind of show through our cohorts and the people that are involved with us why that would be a good decision. That's what we do.
Great. Well, thanks. Thanks to all of you for introducing yourself. So, Brandon, I think we're gonna stick with you just for a second. Before we dive too deeply into the topic, I think it would be good just to set the table and talk about what is a couple of things. One, what is the projected workforce demand? So again, this is a tech expo, so people are looking at various things in terms of jobs and how they can start careers. And so what is the projected workforce demand for esports? And I use esports and gaming. I'll use them somewhat interchangeably. So what's the demand look like? And what is the current ecosystem looking like here in the Milwaukee or the Southeast Wisconsin area?
Yeah, those are great questions. I will say that on the specific analytics side of the demand, I may defer, I'm sure, a little bit to Erica, possibly, if her organization helps fulfill the jobs directly. I think in terms of numbers, you hear a lot of numbers with B's and their aliens, right? Like in terms of both revenue as well as the need in the workforce and so on. So I think there's certainly a growing demand there that perhaps, Erica, if you're up for it, you may be able to share some statistics, or if you've got anything nearby that would give you that specific data points. I can touch on, I guess, what we see here and where I think that those jobs and where those pathways will lead. So one of the things I know we were talking about prior that I thought might be helpful to share is just sort of an example of, in our local ecosystem, what someone who's a job seeker or looking to get involved in esports may be able to pursue. And so what you see up on the screen here is just on our website, mkesports.com. There's a small directory where we try to keep an updated list of all the different initiatives as well as partners that are helping make this gaming and esports ecosystem run. And so, it starts in the scholastic realm, which you can think of as middle school esports, high school esports. If I'm to drop down this here, you'll see there's a large list in just the southern Wisconsin area. And this isn't the total list. This is a partial list. We're trying to update it, honestly, at this point weekly with the demand and growth there. But there's a ton of opportunity for youth to get involved both in a player capacity, a coach capacity, a manager capacity in that scholastic realm. As you go across collegiately, a ton of new programs. And we're so blessed to have Dr. Malone here, who's going to be able to talk a little bit about how UW-Madison views that in some capacity. But we've got a lot of universities really diving into this space. They need coaches. They need shoutcasters. They need scholarship athletes. There's a ton of opportunity in that realm as well. Not to mention the people who can hook up the equipment, PCs, consoles, TVs, right? The tech side of it, which is incredibly needed. The pro side, there's a couple pro teams in Wisconsin. We're really grateful to have our Milwaukee Bucks, have Bucks Gaming, which is an NBA 2K affiliate. We also have a Fortnite pro squad in Wisconsin, which is pretty cool. So there is the opportunity, and you'll see notable gamers as well, to play esports professionally. I like to always make sure, as anyone would have done with me thinking of going to the NBA, it's probably not going to be your thing, because less than 1% are going to make it to that holy space. But we do have that in our ecosystem, and it is a path a lot are following. You can also create a venue. So we've got a number of venues locally where people can go and do LAN tournaments and can play in competitive leagues. It's a great entrepreneurial opportunity, and one that's growing all the time. Places where people can go in the esports community, congregate, find community amongst fellow gamers, and be able to participate. And so, I'll just start with that to your question, that if you're looking for a pathway in a career, these are a few of the areas just in the southern Wisconsin area. And I know, Erica's from out in Portland. I'm sure she could speak to their ecosystem as well, where some of these pathways will lead you. Does that help answer that question, do we think?
It does. And Brandon, you're not only a participant, you're playing moderator too, because that's a great segue to the next question. So Erica, from where you sit working at Experis, a corporation that has a lot of investment into the gaming space. Can you talk a little bit about how you see the market, more broadly from your point of view? And can you talk about some specific opportunities at Experis, but opportunities that you see? Brendan started to touch on it, some of the various ways to get involved in gaming and in esports. But if you could tackle that, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, the industry is growing so quickly, and as the industry grows and as the consumer base grows, there's a need to ensure that product quality still meets the standard that the consumers expect. And in that case, there is a need for quality assurance, and that's what Experis Game Solutions does well and cares about, and that's a space where we fit into the market. And that is a space where we're bringing work to this area. We're bringing work to Milwaukee. We are opening a test center of excellence in Milwaukee. And specifically, we're looking for around 150 roles in the area, focusing on quality assurance, looking for a test associate type of role that focuses on finding and reproducing bugs in games. That can be in the esports area, that can be in all types of games that exist. And this is not just sitting at your house and playing games and, joking around. This is a role that requires an analytical mindset. This is being able to communicate effectively about what steps you've taken. This is about being able to reproduce the same thing in a controlled environment, and consider the end user and the scenarios that they're likely to encounter. So this is a career path that is highly attractive to people who enjoy games, enjoy gaming, enjoy esports, and it's something that we're bringing to the area. We, are actively looking for this role in a relatively large quantity in the immediate term. So there are things happening right now. This is a growing industry. This is something that we are in right now, and this is it's something that has individual pathways for people who follow those. It's something that works in a team, something that has career progression and advancement. It's a great opportunity in a lot of ways.
And Erica, I appreciate how you made that differentiation. So even though I sometimes use gaming and esports, use them as synonymous. If you think about to engage in gaming, so if back in the day, when we had when I got my first Atari, I guess I was gaming and playing, Pac-Man and Frogger. Well, gaming has certainly, just like most other things that are positively affected by technology, gaming has come a long way. And so gaming is something that a lot of people already participate in through an individual console at their house, or now through online methods where you can play against people from across the country or across the world. So a lot of people are already engaged in gaming. Esports, and Brandon, correct me if I'm wrong, esports is when you get together and actually, just like you would play on a basketball team or a football team, esports is when you get together in a gaming context and actually have team competitions and around various games. Or so that's it. Again, they're both synonymous, but I appreciate Erica kind of bringing out, a lot of folks can do gaming, but when you take gaming to the next level into a team concept, that's where the esports comes in. You talked about the fact that actually, Erica, when are you looking to bring the center that you were talking about that Experis is going to have? Do you know a ETA of when that's coming to Milwaukee?
We will have the postings available, and we'll make sure that all of our job posting links are available as part of this expo, and made available to everyone who's watching this panel, who's participating, who's here right now. We'll have our job posts available. We're looking.
Wonderful. So there's a possible pathway right there with Experis coming to Milwaukee. And so we should all keep if you're interested in to get in this gaming and esports industry, Experis is coming to Milwaukee, and they will be hiring. So that's great to know. Well, hiring and interest in a pathway is one thing, but having the skills necessary to successfully enter and to do well in that pathway, that's a different matter. And so, Dr. Malone, can you talk about from your seat being in higher, what are the things that students and other experienced job seekers, what are the skills, hard skills and soft skills, that you would need to take your love of gaming, but actually put it into work in an industry context or in an esports context? What are the things that you need to bring to the table?
That's actually a complicated question, because it depends on what you want to do, right? So I would start by saying there's certain jobs that are very visible and that everybody wants to do, right? So when you talk about esports, everybody wants to be the pro player or the shoutcaster, right? Those are the two very visible games. But there are so many people that you don't see who are handling tech, who are designing games, who are running tournaments, who are doing social media. With a lot of companies, the social media itself is a full-time job, right? And those all take different skills. So one of the things when I am talking to certificate students who are all undergrads is I will tell them to take a lot of classes outside of their major, but that will complement it. So one of the classes that I will recommend is communications, because that's a soft skill that can be very important regardless of what job you're in. But then also you might find, or a student might find like, oh, actually, this is my jam, I'm really good at it, and they might go more into the marketing or other aspects of gaming that are really good uh, for that. But the other thing by having a good breath is that you will then be able to talk to the other people you work with, right? So for example, before I was in academia, I worked as a designer. I'm not a coder. I probably couldn't code a whole game by myself, but I know some coding, which is very important because then while I was working in industry, that meant that I could communicate with the programmers to get my designs realized. And that was very important to me being successful in my job, right? And so that's what I tell students. Like, if you don't want to be the programmer, that's fine, but still take that one coding class or take that one communications class, so that when you get into a company, you can talk to the other people that you need to work with. And actually, a lot of people can't do that. So that will make my students going out all the more valuable in their jobs. The other thing I would say about training, there's actually two other things that I think are really important to say. And one is, I don't care how old you are, you're not too old. I have had a handful of students so far in my lifetime that have been older than me, who have gotten the game certificate, and have gone on to have successful careers in the game industry. I'm talking about, I think my oldest student was like 51. And I mentioned that because I sometimes, outside of work, when I'm just like, at a bar, convention, or whatever, I hear people say like, oh, well, I'm too old. And I'm like, but think about it. At 50, if you don't change, you're looking at 15 plus years in a job you don't like. Or you could go to school for a couple of years and then spend those 15 years doing something you want to do, which sounds better to me, right? Um, and the other thing I would say, and this comes, I hope we have a minute, this comes from a story I had of an all freshman class that almost broke my heart. I had them go around and introduce themselves like you do. And then I asked them to tell me what their best skill is. My idea being I would then put them in groups, like an artist with a programmer with, whatever, so that they could create games together. And every single one of them listed off everything they cannot do. I was like, what? I'm like, no, 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 no. You all have skills. But the problem is that they all had this idea of, in order to make games, you had to either be a programmer or you had to be an artist. And so they went around the room saying, I can't program, I can't draw, I can't program, I can't draw. And I got up there and I said, well, I worked as a designer for several years and I can't draw and I can barely program. There's so many other skills that you need. And so I have also then learned to tell people, gaming is so much more than that. Don't get me wrong, art, programming, extremely important, but so is understanding systems, because that's what mechanics are. So is communication, which is everything I talked about before. So is understanding like human-computer interaction. That's very important. Sometimes programmers make this beautiful code and they're like, look how pretty it is. And I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't work for humans, right? This is why we have whole UX design as its own job right now, right? Because as the industry has grown, we've learned that we need people to design specifically for the users. And all of these, like there's no one that's more important than the other. All of these work together to make good gaming experiences, whether it's esports or other, right? Because gaming is so huge.
All right, Krista-Lee, you've given us so much to unpack there, but so much good information. But a couple of things that I took from that is, one, there are some basic skills that you don't have to be a master coder, or you don't have to be, go deep into a lot of the technical or engineering aspects. However, if you're interested in it, it's kind of like one of my professors used to say, even if you're interested in marketing, you don't need to take 15 accounting classes, but you need to understand just some very basics of accounting. It's part of the language of business. And so they, professors would say, even if you want to be an economist, take an accounting class because it'll help you interact with folks in the industry. So there's one thing I heard you say is to make sure you have just some of the basics covered. The other thing I heard you say, which is so important, is that gaming is so broad. It is not just the coding and the creation of the games. There's the marketing of the games. There's, once the games are put together, how do you have the best user experience? There's a communications aspect. So gaming and esports, it involves pretty much, well, not pretty much, a full gamut of skills and talents. And so we want people to leave here thinking that, hey, I'm really good in communications, but I can still have a future in gaming. I'm good at marketing, or I might be good in human-centered design. All of those pieces are applicable to gaming. So thank you so much for bringing that out. We're running up against time, and this is such a fun panel, such great folks with expertise. I'm going to do a lightning round, and so I'm going to start with Erica, go back to Dr. Malone, and finish with Brandon. Last, kind of what is it that you would have people to know as they watch the booth? What would you have? What would you say to them that would really encourage them to look at gaming and esports as a career pathway?
Since our focus is really in quality assurance and testing, and there's so many career paths and so many options that start there and branch out, I would really want people to know that they can get in. There's so many opportunities. You need to be excited about it, have an analytical mindset, be a good communicator, and be excited to be there. And bring that to the table, you are good.
All right, thanks, Erica. Dr. Malone.
I would say stay focused on what you love, but be open-minded about what that means.
I like that. That's good. I think I would just probably piggyback off those two and just say that, hey, at the Milwaukee Esports Alliance, our hope and goal is to connect you to incredible programs like Dr. Malone's, employers like Erica's, and there's a ton of opportunity. And we're talking about something that I particularly think is a lot of fun. Gaming, tech, like these. To Krista-Lee's point, it's a fun career, and I think it's one that if you're going to have a career, might be something to take a look at, because I want to have fun. I think everyone on here likes to have fun, so why not give it a go?
That's great. Thank you to all of our panelists. And one thing I want to bring up, which is it's not incidental, and we intentionally did that. We want to make sure that you know that gaming and esports, it is inclusive, despite what you might see on television or in the movies about it being a male-dominated sport, or there are no people industry and people of color. We want you to know that from a technology standpoint, I'm working for a technology company because technology can enhance and has enhanced the gaming experience. We have women here who are on the academic side, who are on the testing side. So we want to make sure that gaming not only can be, it is an inclusive pursuit. And so we want everyone to feel like there's a place for you when it comes to gaming and esports. Thank you so much. Verizon, we're proud to sponsor this panel as a part of the Tech Expo. We hope you'll check us out, and we hope to see you in the gaming and esports industry soon. Thank you.